So since the initial release of Fallout 4, I've played a lot of it. Like, I've played my fair share of it. And I've got to say, on the whole, I enjoyed it, you know. It wasn't that bad, you know, initially thinking about it. I was playing it, I was looting stuff, I was killing enemies, I was getting awesome armor, and on the surface, the game is very fun and just feels like a classic Fallout game. But if you actually look at the old Fallout games and how they worked, and the changes that Bethesda made to Fallout 4 when they released it, some were for the better. Some changes definitely were better, and it made the game a whole lot more enjoyable and more accessible for other people to play. However, a lot of the changes they made were incredibly terrible and actually set back the Fallout series. First of all, the main thing that Bethesda changed was the dialogue option. So in the previous Fallout games, your character wouldn't have a voice. It's a classic RPG Bethesda style game. And basically, in Fallout 4, they changed it so your character had a voice, which many people didn't like, me included, and two, it was a weird kind of dialogue system that was more akin to games like Mass Effect and The Witcher 3, kind of that style where you have like kind of little sections of text that explain what the character's going to say. However, it's not always exactly what the character says word for word, which I didn't like because, one, the Bethesda games were always great for creating my own story. That was kind of the main thing. The character was me or whoever I wanted it to be, which was really good because it made the experience a lot more personal, and that's what was great about Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 3 and New Vegas and stuff like that. But with Fallout 4, they changed it. So it felt like we were playing as a character, opposed to playing as our own character that we created in the game. And I mainly play Bethesda games like that because it feels like you're living in a world and your character is created specifically to you. You can tailor it however you want to, you can do whatever you want with your character, and the fact that they have no voice in the other games, you kind of read it in your head as you're reading the dialogue options in the previous games in your own voice. It's just a lot better for immersion. With Fallout 4, it was very difficult to immerse yourself in the world of the game because whenever you talk to someone, your character would speak for you and you wouldn't have dialogue options that reflected exactly what you were going to say, and it was all around just very immersion breaking, and that's something that needs to be in a Bethesda game because that's one of the main selling points for me. Although it is a very small thing, the dialogue options really did change Fallout 4 for the worse, and I really think they should add in the next Bethesda game they make, I really think they should add back in the full dialogue options without the voiced characters, because that broke immersion so much. There is a mod out there that actually lets you play the game how the old Bethesda games were, with all of the dialogue options available and your character doesn't speak, which is a mod that I definitely recommend downloading if you're looking for a more of a classic Fallout experience. However, there shouldn't be a mod that fixes this stuff. They shouldn't have to be fixed. It should already be how the other games were, because it was a system that had worked for years. Something else I want to talk about is something a tiny little bit bigger. It's kind of more of the gameplay aspects. Now, the other Fallout games had very basic shooting and hiding behind cover, and there weren't really any mechanics that allowed you to hide behind anything. There wasn't even aiming in Fallout 3, I don't think there was any aiming that you could aim down sights with, and I think that was quite good. It was like a nice simple system. It showed that the game wasn't all based around the combat. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't an FPS. And that was good because it kind of pushed exploration more, questing, talking to people, exploring your area, and it was a lot more enjoyable. Whereas with Fallout 4, the gunplay has been upped quite a bit. Now, a lot of people say this is good. Fair enough, it's good for the combat situations, but it also means that the game became more centered around shooting people and fighting and the combat, and you know, you could fight your way out of every situation. You didn't have to think. It wasn't difficult. It was just aim and shoot. I feel like this took away from the other great aspects of the Fallout series, like walking through the wasteland, listening to the radio was a really great part of playing the Fallout games. That's something that I enjoyed quite a lot, and also it added that immersion to it because it wasn't just shooting people. It was also exploring a post-apocalyptic world and the remnants of like a 50s era civilization, and it was really fucking awesome. It was a really cool concept, and I feel like that a lot of that was muddied during Fallout 4 because the game was very centered around combat and shooting people and, you know, getting the best weapons and doing all that, and you didn't take a second to look at the world that was being created around you. And this focus on combat was only amplified by Preston Garvey coming up to you every 5 minutes. You just wanted to have a normal conversation with him, you know? You just wanted to talk to him about what's going on, you know? He's your companion. And he'd just tell you about all the recent settlements that are in trouble, and you don't care. It seems like there's an infinite amount of them. It's fucking ridiculous. And literally all it is going into a settlement, killing a few bandits, killing a few ghouls or something like that, and then you get the settlement. And that's something that I want to talk about as well, the settlement feature. I feel like Bethesda focused so much on the settlement feature that they forgot to amplify all of the other features that were in the other Fallout games, because it was a very ambitious thing. There are a huge load of settlements you could edit. You know, you could literally put little houses down, little shacks for people to live in. You could have people live there. And I just think that they were trying to create an in-depth settlement system, and they didn't focus on the other aspects of the game. They tried to push this new system they were building, and that's something that a lot of developers do. They're innovating their game, and they're trying to add more things to it. They tend to forget about updating or making the other features that were in the other games better, so those end up being obsolete, and the new feature kind of takes over everything, and it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth in general. This is exactly what happened with the settlement feature. You know, it's not a bad feature. I think it's quite cool that you can build your own settlements, but I don't think it needed to be as pushed as much as it was. You know, it was pushed so much in the game, and I just don't care. I don't play Fallout to do that. Fair enough, I did do a few settlements here and there. I have my companions to stand there and, you know, kind of sit around doing nothing, but I only use them as things to just dump all my weapons in where I don't have enough space. That's all I use my settlements for. I don't really use it for anything else. It's not really awfully useful, and I feel like they should have spent their time focusing on something different and making the game better in general. Something else that I noticed with the game was it was significantly smaller than Skyrim, which was their previous game, and that's kind of weird. You'd expect the map to be bigger, and because of this there was less stuff to do in it, and there was also a strange pacing of the content in the game. I found that very early in the game you already found yourself in Diamond City, which was the main place in the game. That was kind of the whole thing. It was the Jewel of the Commonwealth, as it was called, and you found yourself there very quickly. The reveal of Diamond City wasn't that, you know, it wasn't like anything like Fallout New Vegas, when you see the New Vegas strip on the horizon, you know, you see the lights. It was nothing like that. It was just, hey, you're here at Diamond City, and it's a bit shit, and it looks better in the concept art. But, you know, the game had a very strange pacing of content. The quests weren't all that interesting, and overall, the main quest of the game really was pretty shit, which isn't anything new with Bethesda games. They tend to not have a very interesting or very well thought out or developed main story. The kind of fun from those games comes from surviving and playing the game and creating your own stories and killing enemies and exploring. But the main story for Bethesda games really are always very, very weak. And this is nothing new with Fallout 4. The different factions in the game also weren't awfully spectacular. You know, they were definitely better in the previous games. They introduced a few new ones with the Institution and the Railroad, but, you know, the Brotherhood of Steel was still there. But I've got to say, the Brotherhood of Steel quest lines in New Vegas and 3 were a whole lot more intriguing than it was in Fallout 4. Fallout 4's was kind of just going to a load of buildings with Paladin dance and kill people. That was kind of it. Like, I did like the ending with the twist with Paladin dance. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone in case you intend on playing it. I don't know, but it was good in that regard. But overall, the quest line for Brotherhood of Steel wasn't awfully interesting at all. It was a lot of shooting people and blowing shit up, and, you know, it was definitely better in the other games. Alright, now I've gone over the main things that I dislike about the game. I'm quickly going to mention off a few things that I actually liked about Fallout 4, and I think should be translated into the next game. First of all, we have the change to power armor. Power armor was made a whole lot more significant and a lot more powerful in Fallout 4. It became an actual suit of armor that went over you, and it just felt like you were a huge tank when you took on a ton of enemies with the power armor. It felt a lot better, especially when you first get that initial suit of power armor and you fight a Deathclaw with a minigun. It's fucking insane. That was a really standout moment in Fallout 4. I definitely like the changes to power armor. It wasn't just clothes, like armor that you put over and like your character, and it was just like that. It affected your strength, it affected your ability to carry things, it affected your speed, and it was really overall a great addition to the game. And I think that if they're going to do another Fallout game, they should definitely keep the power armor like that, because I think that was good. You know, also it wasn't too overpowered because you had fusion cores that you had to collect across the map, and there was a limited amount of them, except you could actually buy them from vendors, and it was pretty good. You know, it was balanced well, and you know, fusion cores, they depleted in a nice amount of time as well, so you had to keep restocking them. You couldn't abuse power armor and wear it basically forever unless you had like the nuclear physicist perk that was really good and made it so your fusion cores last a whole lot longer. But yeah, I really liked the power armor in Fallout 4. I think it was done very well. Something else that I thought was done well was the weapon customization at the different workbenches. That was interesting. Added a whole lot more depth to the weapons and to the combat in the game. You could change a rifle to a fully automatic, basically into a sniper, by just adding modifications to it, and it was very interesting. I think they should go even more in depth in the next game and make it so, you know, you can change literally everything about a weapon. You can change the way it looks, you can change the way it performs, I just want it to be a whole lot more in depth than it was in this game, because I've noticed that when you change a gun in this game, they all kind of look very much the same. There's only a few archetypes of weapons in this game, so I'd really like them to add more archetypes of weapons and more ways of modifying weapons in the game too. Apart from the music in the game and the amazing radio stations and soundtracks and stuff, I can't really think of anything that I particularly like an awful lot about Fallout 4. It's got a really bland map, not a great set of characters throughout the main story, a weak main story, and overall I don't really like it as much as the other games, and in comparison to Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, it is a piece of fucking garbage in terms of a game. Not saying I didn't enjoy it when I was playing it, because as I was playing it for the first time, as I played the DLCs for the first time, I loved every second of it. It felt like the classic Fallout experience. But upon further inspection of the game, and actually thinking about it, the game does not hold up to the other ones, even considering how old they are. You know, they're running on an outdated engine, they've got, you know, sometimes awful voice acting, not great combat, but I still enjoy them a lot more than Fallout 4, and it feels like Fallout 4 went down the route of an FPS. It, you know, emphasized exploration a whole lot less, and overall, it was a less interesting game with a less in-depth world and set of characters. All in all, Fallout 4 just wasn't really what anyone expected it to be, and it was a huge disappointment, and that's basically it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This video is a little bit different from other things that I've done because it's a RPG, you know, first-person game. It's kind of very different, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more videos in the future, and I'll also see you guys in the next one.